All right. It is 3 p.m. on the East Coast, and we're going to get started. So thank you, everyone who has jumped on right at the top of the hour. And welcome to our second live Q&A of the Ask the Experts series. My name is Heidi. I'm the Strategic Partnerships Manager at Supermove, and we are on a mission to make moving simple for everyone with software that brings your whole team to one system. That's your operations, your dispatch, your sales, your coordinators. And today we're here joined by Ellis, and I'm very excited to talk to him about all things sales and customer service related. Wanted to just give a brief bio about Ellis. He's a Louisiana native, currently living in Nashville, and currently the VP of Sales and Customer Service at Black Tie Moving. Ellis was in the Army National Guard for 6 years and has 25 years of leadership experience, ranging from call centers, brick and mortar, and outside sales. He's developed customer service and sales models at a few companies and has brought his diverse knowledge to build a winning sales culture at Black Tie Moving. So we're here today to learn from you, Ellis, how to create sales systems and processes that directly contribute to the bottom line. I'll start off by asking some of the questions that were submitted during registration. And for those that are tuning in, feel free to type in your questions at the bottom of the control panel. And just to kick it off, Black Tie has currently 11 locations around the US. So I want to ask, what's it like to be in charge of sales and customer service?
Well, first of all, thanks for having me. I wouldn't say in charge, even though I am. I think it's more of a collaboration. And the uniqueness of having so many branches is that I really get to be the liaison between sales, the customer, and our operations team. So I think a lot of times in any organization, you have operations and then you have sales, and they don't always work in synergy. So the fun part of the job is really creating a synergy between a one team, one goal mindset. So it's been a great year of doing that with this organization.
And, talking about that collaborative culture, is that something that was already happening at Black Tie, or is it something that you kind of had to get the ball rolling for it to become more collaborative?
Yeah, I think you had good intentions prior to, but I don't think there were good processes in place that allowed both sides to trust one another. Great people, great talent, but we've worked really hard to implement really, really sound, simplistic processes that lets us know and communicate daily around what's happening with the customer experience. And by doing that, and by building that trust, now we have open doors where we can speak and collaborate.
Yeah. So before you joined, can you talk about if there were any sales processes in place, and what did you do to change that?
Yeah, I think before coming to the organization, we had some good people that had really good intentions. And there were steps and how to ask certain questions to get great estimates. And I feel like what I brought was really more the science of selling, which included everything from, how do we answer the phone? How do we greet? How do we ask great open-ended questions, and then take those open-ended questions and answers and delve a little further? And then how do you appropriately ask for the sell, and understanding the differences between customers' objections or maybe a stall, and then how does that tie into asking for the sale at the end of the conversation? And we've really created an organization where it feels like a conversation between customer and us, which allows my guys to not be salespeople, but to be consultants. And when you create a consultant environment, then you build trust between you and the customer, and your conversion by default really grows tremendously.
So I talk to moving company owners all the time, and I find that most moving companies are not so focused on, I guess, pushing the sale. They instead, they're kind of, they'll provide the quote and kind of let the customer decide at the end. Would you say that you guys push for the sale, kind of close as fast as possible? What's kind of like your philosophy around that?
No, I think it's about a good conversation. And we do look at talk time, and that you have to in a contact center. But to me, it's really, from a leadership standpoint, that's the art of leading. You have to understand that every customer is unique, And whether it's peak season or whether we're in December, I want the customers to feel like it's a good conversation, albeit 5 minutes or 25 minutes. And then when they hang up, that if they've spoken with Zach or Heidi or Ellis, that they feel a little different. And we've had customers tell us, wow, you guys asked some crazy good questions that we didn't even think about. And I don't feel pushed, but I want to go with you guys. So again, conversationalist with great questions allows us to earn the right to ask for the sell.
Yeah, no, I think that is very important. I just don't know how many moving companies are, I guess, being in a more consultative role, because how do you balance that with taking phone calls, all day, every day, and being able to talk and make someone feel comfortable?
Yeah, well, a great question. And that's one thing that I had to implement here. You're talking about, how do you track inbound calls? How do you manage leads? And for me, it was about implementing great processes around lead management so that my guys felt comfortable taking time with customers. So I built a team that had adequate staffing. So my FTE, or my full-time equivalency, matched what the inbound and forecasted volume looked like. And then literally I hands-on manage every single lead. So if we grab the lead in the moment, that's great. If we don't, I personally assign that to an individual, and there's a process in place for them to follow up with me and let me know the resolution of that lead. So it's a very well put together system that allows for great conversion, and our conversion points are up 15 to 20 bases over LY.
Wow. I want to rewind back. Could you tell us a little bit more about your background, before you came into the moving industry, and some things that you've been able to implement like right away joining the moving industry in terms of your sales processes?
Sure. So, if I go back to my T-Mobile days, or I go back to my days in brick and mortar with selling clothing, my background really involves face-to-face interaction with customers, and really getting to know that customer. And, again, I hate to use the word selling because it's really consulting, but consulting, there's a science or steps to it, right? So things we have to follow to be great consultants, but there's also an art to consulting. And I think you can put together modules that teach the science of selling from greet to asking, and then follow up, but then there's an art to it. And the art is developed through great coaching, mentoring, feedback in the moment, where you say, hey, Heidi, you said something, but the customer triggered another direction. Let's talk about artistically how you still can be a consultant while redirecting the conversation. And that's just like any team sport or any business model. That's just repetitive coaching. And so I'll jump out of my desk and run into the contact center, or my assistant will do the same thing. And we're constantly listening, monitoring, and providing that feedback in the moment. So I brought that kind of coaching in the moment here, and brought in people that were willing to be coached. And, the artistic side of leadership on that end is when it works and they see it work and their checks are bigger, and when moves are bigger and we're throwing parties because we're beating LY numbers, the what's in it for me is felt within the contact center, and that you get the buy-in.
You're talking about bigger checks. I'm sure it's, motivating for salespeople to see that and contribute, to the whole team. But can you talk a little bit more about, I guess, changes that you made maybe in commission structure? How did you create a system that allowed people to be motivated from the start?
So we have a tiered commission structure. It's based on number of bookings. It's based on volume. We incorporated bonus, and that's daily. I typically will throw bonus contest on slower days.
Wow.
And so I'll leverage the slower period to throw a bonus in that motivates and excites the team. We do rankings of top bookers. I have a board that I keep in the sales area that's called the FIB board. It's the fire in the belly board. And the fire in the belly can't be taught, right? You either have that or you don't. And so I rank with stats. Great consultants like to see numbers, and
Yeah.
We update that weekly. And so there's a competitiveness, a friendly competitiveness amongst each of the members that they want to grow and see their name on that board. So that's a few ways that we do it in a very fun way to make sure that we stay energized in the sales area.
Yeah. FIB, we said fire in the belly. I think everyone should always kind of have a check. Do you have a fire in your belly today? Are you feeling urgent? Are you like on top of it? No, I like that a lot. So, it's peak season. I'm sure the calls are flowing in, the sales are flowing in because people are need to move ASAP. But what is your current focus for your sales organization?
It's two. It's the internal customer and it's the external customer. And leaders, good leaders, can bring something to the table that doesn't make the external customer feel like it's busy. So it's still a personal consultant, right? We're not pushing them off the phone. And then the internal customer has to feel the same, right? So they can't feel the added pressure to push the customer. That's the artistic side of leadership. And the way that I've done that is, again, the proper staffing totals, great lead management, but also, making sure that if a day is packed or a weekend is booked already, that we're not saying no, that we're not penalty selling to the customer, that we're providing options. So an example of that, Heidi, would be, hey, Heidi, Saturday and Sunday are booked. A lot of my customers have found that they move to a Monday or a Tuesday, that they're able to save a little on their rates and still get that move done quickly and efficiently. And so let's go ahead and pick one of those 2 days and get you taken care of. So it's a lot of those type of role plays and practices that we're doing. So the customer goes, oh, well, Ellis has a solution. He's not just saying no.
When you joined, did you rewrite all the sales scripts or like, what was the beginning like?
Yeah, I really did. And, a lot of, well, I'll back up. I did not go out and find anybody with moving experience.
Okay.
I went and found people who loved people and people who brought a lot of energy to the table because I have a lot of it. And so I needed people who wanted to engage and interact with customers, who didn't get frazzled easily, who could handle a little pressure from a peak season standpoint. And then I really took them and taught them the science of selling first. We practiced that until it became muscle memory. And then I began to sprinkle, if you will, sand over the rocks in the jar, the artistic side of selling that allowed them to know how to use the science side appropriately.
I'm not sure how many moving companies hire non-moving industry salespeople, so I find that really interesting. And just something, last time I connected with you, you told me about Potluck in the Pit, where everyone on your team, your movers, sales, customer service, the whole back office comes together for is it twice a month?
We do that twice a month.
Yeah. So tell us more about Potluck in the Pit and why you care about bringing people together.
Well, I think bringing people together, your work is your second home, and it should feel that way. And people, it's cliche, but people work for people. And the reason I began Potluck in the Pit was I'm from Louisiana, so I do like to eat. But secondly, was, I wanted the guys to know that I had a servant-like mentality. So for the first few months, I cooked everything and I brought everything. And then slowly we began to do the potluck where we all brought something to the table. And now we pick a different meal type and we do it. But I began to bring movers into the sales area and the contact center, let them eat with us, operations managers, HR, so that they could mingle and get to know one another. Because when you get to know someone on a personal level, that whole I'm doing things with a good intention mindset is kind of bled into the culture. And when you have that, we're doing everything with a good intention mindset, then silos are eliminated. And when silos are eliminated, Heidi, you and I both know the customer can feel that without even realizing what they're feeling.
Yeah, I mean, even with my team, we're all remote at the moment. So I wish that we were able to come together for, a potluck every other week. And I'm sure that it's helped to bring people to just understand like all parts of the business, right? That it's a collaborative effort, like we talked about in the beginning.
Absolutely.
So just to turn it over a little bit to, I want to talk about reviews. So being in the moving industry, probably being in any service, home related industry, having good reviews is key. So I'm curious, being, seeing the good and bad reviews, how do you address, I guess, both positive and negative reviews?
Yeah, I address them as simplistic as this may sound, but I address it like I would address a personal issue. And what I mean is, if Heidi, you had an issue with me, I would want to listen to you. I'd want to address it immediately. And I don't come to any 1-star, 2-star review with a solution originally. So we have systems and processes in place for this, meaning we pull the calls, we listen to the original estimate. We talk to the movers. What was the experience like? What was the interaction like between you and the customer? And then I take that data and I call the customer, right? And I listen. I don't listen with a solution. I listen to understand. And once I hear the customer, we should be smart enough at that point in our roles to connect those 3 dots, right? The estimate to the moving experience to the customer's perspective. And I'm telling you, 9 times out of 10, there is a very, very easy, low cost solution for the customer. Absolutely.
Yeah. Is that, I guess the first thing that my mind goes to is just like a reimbursement of some kind, or is it sometimes not even that?
It's not even always that. It's a lot of times they want it to be heard. And I'll be honest with you, the most common thing I hear is, Ellis, we've never had anybody call us and listen. It usually falls on deaf ears. Ellis, you asked about my kids when I was telling you my kids were involved and I was having to balance a new baby while watching the movers go in and out. You asked me how what my kids did for sports. It was really more about a conversation between me and customer. And the really cool thing is I've begun to teach my sales team how to do this. And why is that important? If I give you the estimate as a sales consultant, and then you have an issue and your boss doesn't call me, but you call me instead because you had the relationship with me, that is a much quicker and easier way to come to a solution. And my people feel empowered to make decisions based on the customer without any fear of retribution on my end. So it has really become a one-stop solution sales arena and customer service arena at Black Tie Moving.
Yeah. And giving your salespeople feeling, making sure that they're empowered to do so. Is that, did you have to set rules, or was that always kind of part of the culture? Because I think, it's difficult to be able to empower your employees.
Well, there has to be rules. There has to be parameters, and I have to trust but verify, inspect what I expect type of thing. But again, it is part of our culture, and the byproduct of allowing your salespeople to do that, because nobody wants to have a tough conversation. Right? Yeah. So my salespeople were not raising their hands to do this.
Yeah.
I gently voluntold them to do this, but here's the thing: by doing it, these guys now know some of the common objections and pitfalls that customers run into. So the estimate experience is even evolving more now. So some of these things that might happen are now being covered in job notes, or maybe between conversations with salespeople and the operations managers beforehand. So it's made us better consultants by these guys resolving their own conflicts.
Yeah, there's probably a lot of miscommunication that happens that can be addressed up front, especially when you have them on the phone, or even notes through email.
Absolutely.
When a new sales member joins your team, what kind of training do they go through?
It's rigorous. I interview for culture fit. That's what I interview for. And for attitude, but they begin by a 3 to 4 week shadowing process. That's 100 plus, 200 plus calls a day they have to listen to, and salespeople are extroverts. So that 3 to 4 weeks is really arduous for those guys because they feel like they're ready early on.
Yeah.
And they shadow with my top salespeople, and they listen to calls. They get their hands in the software program that does the estimates. They listen to objections and stalls. They understand how to not penalty sell, but to offer solutions. And it's just muscle memory over and over again. And we don't compromise that 3 to 4 weeks, whether we're busy or not.
Yeah.
Then we take them and we put them in a secondary sales queue. So they get the overflow of the calls, and we're there to shadow them. So the roles are reversed. So now they're taking the calls, we're providing in the moment feedback. We're helping these guys learn how to give great estimates with great inventories, while sprinkling it all with hospitality on the phone. And then what I will do weekly is on Friday is I'll pull them into my office and we listen to calls that have been recorded and we let them hear themselves. And the test is, Heidi, tell me what you liked, tell me what you would change if you could do it again. So that creates a self-awareness piece that allows them to begin to almost self-coach when we can't be with them.
So they're put in the hot seat and getting direct feedback. I like it.
Yeah, they have to scrimmage before they can play the real game.
In terms of, estimates, from COVID from last year, I was curious, do you guys find that, the virtual estimates or just a phone estimate, them telling, the customer telling you the estimate, or in-home estimates are best? What kind of works? What do you guys focus on?
Yeah, it's a great question. So there are certain square footage parameters where we'll go in home versus just doing it over the phone. To your point, we have found that FaceTime or Zoom is exponentially more effective and more comfortable for the customers. The byproduct from a business standpoint is that we're able to do 40% more a day that way.
Yeah.
Right. And here's the fun fact: conversions up 8 base points with all of those. So it has been a win-win for everyone.
What's your secret to virtual estimates? Because I also talk to people who they think that the virtual estimate doesn't allow the salesperson, the estimator, to connect with the customer and build that relationship. Like, how are you able to build that relationship right away when you're just on a FaceTime call?
The same way you and I did the first time we met over FaceTime or Zoom. I mean,
Yeah.
we just talked, right? We had a conversation, and I was a human. I wasn't a checklist. I'm asking you questions.
Yeah.
So they have to dress the part. They have to be branded. They have to be good conversationalists. And again, I don't just let everyone FaceTime and Zoom. It's my most experienced people that can do that very well.
Wow. That's interesting, because I would almost think it's the opposite. Like, if you're not a good, or you're not like a top salesperson, then, going in person, we would want you to be in person.
Yeah, no, it's the other way around. I mean, you have to, it's a little harder sometimes to connect, to your point, over Zoom or FaceTime. So you have to be really good at engaging a customer and really have a good sense of hospitality. That's the artistic side of selling when you're doing that. But again, I mean, our conversion's at 97 and 98% doing it this way. And we do 10 to 12 per person per day.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
I want to remind everyone that they can message or, ask a question in the Q&A. I wanted to bring up Daniel's question. In my role of 3 weeks, brand new director of sales, also knew the moving and storage industry. He's looking for the best approach to have success in my role. So open-ended question, but would love to hear what you have to say.
Yeah, that's a very open-ended question, but I will tell you this, Daniel, get great people. Your job will be very good or very difficult based on the talent you surround yourself with. Again, cliche, but do not be afraid to go find people who are better than you, and do not hire for skill set as much as for attitude. And if you do that and you can coach and you're passionate about coaching every day until you're exhausted, you will build a team and your job will be much easier.
I'm an athlete myself, and I'm used to being able to I'm coachable is, what you're looking for, people who are coachable. But in terms of having someone join the moving industry when they're brand new, these new salespeople that you hire, like how do you get them to understand the industry in a quick, probably in the 4 weeks that they're onboarding?
Yeah, so we have training modules that we take them through. Their hands, we put their hands on the systems. They get to practice, right? So they get to put the equipment on. They get to run around the field. We have these little scrimmages with them where we'll role play or practice scenarios. We'll pause as things may be missed and talk about it, and then resume the role play. So we do a lot of that. Now, much like as an athlete, you held practices, and think of it this way, and just take any sport. Most sports play once or twice a week, but they practice 5 to 6 times a week. So your practice should be 5 to 6 times greater than your actual engagement with a customer. And if you're not doing it that way, don't be surprised that your customer experience is lacking, if that makes sense.
Yeah. So being able to coach, but I guess constantly reiterate on that. And I guess as a leader, you have to be able to get feedback and change yourself.
100%. And I intentionally do not close my door. People will try to close my door. I leave it open. I want to hear. I leave my office intentionally to talk to the guys. And most of the time, we're not talking about business. We're talking about them. The adage that people have, they'll only care when they know you care. Man, that is so missed often. And they have to feel that the feedback they're getting, is relevant, that their boss can do the job they're coaching them to do, one, and two, that you truly care about their growth and development. So when tough feedback's given, they know it's just really to help them and not to call them out, if you will.
Yeah. I mean, I think that that's something as a good leader knows how to do, but that's also a skill that has to be learned. How do you, give good feedback that's also being heard in the right way? So it's like the delivery, the tone. I don't know, you make it sound so easy to care about your people, even though it's peak season and you're swamped. So I think it's a skill that I admire. We just got another question from Joseph. This is more, marketing related, but what do you find to be the most successful forms of marketing for your company? Meaning, what drives the most valid leads for you?
Yeah, absolutely. Google is a big one for us. We work a lot with GLSA, PPC. They're big for us. We have weekly meetings with our partners there in marketing, and we analyze that data and we shift monies around based on where we're getting the most hits and the cost per hit. So, but Google is one of our biggest. Our agent referrals are another really big one. And we have an agent incentive program that incentivizes agents monetarily to provide leads. So those are just 2 examples of many.
Got it. The real estate agents. Yeah, I find that a lot of moving companies do partner with real estate agents. So in my mind, I'm like, they're all being taken, but I'm sure that there's still real estate agents that, moving companies should be building relationships with.
Absolutely.
When we last talked, you told me about, that you are, you also do some public speaking, and I want to share with everyone more about your sales background, kind of how you are able to have the philosophy that you have today, the servant leadership mindset, and being able to really care and empower your whole team.
It really goes back to me having great leaders. I have had such great leaders as a young guy in New Orleans, people that put their arm around me and say, I'm going to give you tough feedback, but you need to hear it because I love you. I've had great leaders, forced me to read books I didn't want to read that would help me learn and force me to think differently. I've had so many great moments that were sometimes great, or fun to hear, and maybe others that were difficult to hear. But always layered with, I'm here to help you. And it's because I love you, Ellis. And it's because I want you to grow. And I really began to pick up on that. I became a byproduct of the environments I came out of. So I have to give a lot of credit to a lot of great leaders that have really influenced me.
So you had to go through the coaching to get to be the coach.
Oh, trust me when I tell you, I've made a lot of boneheaded decisions. I've had some tough phone calls, not on the fun end. And I've been forced into very tough situations that my leaders knew would make me grow. So it has not been a bed of roses.
When I'm curious on in terms of kind of like sales scripts and coaching your movers to be conversational, but also kind of like hit the points that they need to when they're talking to a customer on the phone. When they're on the phone with someone, is there a script that they're following? Or is that something that is only happening in like the training part at the beginning?
Yeah, so there are certain things they must cover. And the script is used more in the first 4 to 8 weeks, but that really begins to be, that script turns into a conversation. That's the art side of selling. I think the very most important thing that you can uncover in your conversation with any sale, but especially in the moving industry, is what's most important to you about this move, Heidi. In other words, if Black Tie does this move for you, and we hope we earn the right to do it, what's the single most important thing that we can give to you as a consumer? And they will sometimes go, well, I mean, I have valuables, or it's you got to get me on this date, or you got to make it seamless for me while I'm out of town. Whatever that is, then we take that need and we build the entire estimate around that need, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I would think that most people are just saying, just make it happen. I want it to be stress-free, but yeah, you never know unless you're asking them, like, what is most important to you about this move?
And you are right. It is usually it's because it's stressful. That's one of our top. The other one is, we have a lot of valuable things. I call those in my coaching memories, because we're moving memories. We're not moving inventory. I hate the word inventory because, hey, listen, it's inventory until it gets damaged, and then it becomes a priceless heirloom. So let's just treat everything like a priceless heirloom, right? And let's give quotes or estimates as if we were moving our grandparents or our best friend. And if we treat everything like that, then our attitude about the estimate and our attention to detail, right, intensifies. So that's our approach.
Yeah, well, so I do love that question. What do you care about the most? What do you value the most for this move? Are there any other questions you find really establish a relationship with the customer?
Gosh, it's the small talk. It is the, hey, look, I know things are stressful for you right now. What are the things you have going on with the move right now? And they may say, well, I'm looking for someone who disassembles cribs, or I'm looking for somebody who can, do X, Y, and Z, for me during the move. And sometimes we can offer solutions to that through third party. But more than anything, we're listening and we're connecting. I call it a BRT moment, where we build relationships of trust by doing those things, because giving an estimate's not difficult. It is I ask questions, I give answers based on an algorithm in a software program. Yeah. The artistic side of it is the small talk, right? It's the sand that falls over the rocks of the estimate that really creates the experience.
Yeah, this I've never heard that, the sand that falls over the rocks. With the, I guess, creating that small talk as a salesperson, because I've called around, I've gotten estimates before, and it's very transactional. So, like, back to empowering or coaching your salespeople to be able to build that relationship. I guess, like, take it slower than other companies. They're probably like, get the information, give them that quote, and yeah, be done with it. But at the same time, I'm sure that even if there are customers that are more, I guess, on a tight timeline, or they don't want to talk on the phone, I'm sure you guys adapt to that as well.
You have to code switch, meaning you have to adapt to your client. Some clients are transactional and they have 10 minutes. They're on their break. Other customers, they need that time with you. But it's the simple things such as, how's your day going? It is, what do you have left to balance other than the move itself with getting into your new home? What do you know about the community you're moving to? It's those small components. It's the laughing on the phone. It's the smiling over the phone that really builds the relationship and trust between you and the customer.
Yeah, you make it sound like calling to Black Tie Moving is a fun phone call, when usually I'm sure everyone is, they're just looking for estimate, want to get off the phone as quick as they can. So
How do you choose a doctor? I mean, how do you choose a doctor? It's somebody with bedside manners. And they don't spend an hour with you longer than they do their other patients. It's all the small talk. And so we are trying to create that same culture here. We don't want you to hang up and go, gosh, that was cheesy. That was not very authentic.
Yeah.
But we do want you to feel different when you hang up with us.
Yeah. I want to think about your best salespeople. What are some traits that they have? I mean, you mentioned they're able to make the small talk. They're coachable, and just be able to focus on building out the relationship. What other things do you think make a salesperson in the moving industry? If you find anything specific to that, what makes them successful?
People by default, when they call in, they want the lowest estimate possible. They don't ask that, but they're looking for it. So what we do is we try to be very, very honest with the customer. And so I think my best movers are very honest people. One. Number two, they're very detailed on the operational side. Salespeople by default, born and genetically predisposed, do not like operations. And so, I have to make sure that not only do they build relationships, but they're extremely detailed on the inventory or the memory side of the estimate. And we have customers all the time say, gosh, nobody else went into that great a detail with me. And so that allows us, or I call it earning the right, to then say, hey, this is going to be an 8-hour move. This is going to be $1,800, not 11 like the previous competitor told you. Yeah. But Heidi, it's 1,800 because you said this, you said that, you said this. And so I want to be honest with you up front so that you don't feel good today and you get sticker shock, that you can better prepare for the true price of the move.
Well, so a big part is educating the customer about all the costs of a move. And I'm sure that as costs of moves, rates are going up everywhere. That education, I think, is very crucial because even my friends that move, they don't really know everything that's part of why a move is so expensive. So I do have friends that go the U-Haul route and they're like, I'll do it. But at the same time, they do it once and then they'll probably hire a mover and the next time.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's the final part of the estimate before you ask for the sell. And that is going through the details or the itemization of the estimate and explaining why there's a vehicle maintenance fee, or explaining why they may see a materials cost on the estimate when they didn't ask about materials. So, if we're putting materials on the truck, we may say, Heidi, on the estimate, you're going to see $80 worth of materials on this estimate. Here's why. It's because we want, in case you need tape, in case you need shrink wrap, we at Black Tie Moving believe in being prepared for you. So that's why we equip our trucks with these things. So in other words, I'm taking the cost and I'm tying it back to how it serves the customer's needs. Yeah. And when they understand that, again, there's no sticker shock and there's value created between the estimate and the close.
Yeah, that's you're pretty much like selling packaging materials on the truck. No, but that's cool. You're prepared. I like that. Well, Ellis, I do want to start wrapping this up. Thank you so much for sharing your insights and experience. My favorite part is learning about Potluck in the Pit. And I hope that maybe others that are tuning in can implement something like that at their own companies. And for everyone that tuned into this session, Supermove is offering a free month of our software. Just go to our website, fill out a form to check out a demo, and mention that you attended this webinar. And Ellis, any last words before we close it off?
Love your people, spend time with your people, book a move or two with your people. Do not live in the ivory palace, but stay in the trenches. And if you do that, your culture will grow.
Those are good words. Thank you all for attending, and we'll be continuing this webinar series later this summer. So Ellis, thank you again. Really appreciate your time.
My pleasure.